board's minutes stored electronically, and they are available for review by calling the board for an appointment. I now make a motion that the transcript of the previous board hearing on December 22nd, 2020 be accepted as the board minutes for that date. And I ask for a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's carried. Just one announcement, the Fifth Avenue Liquor hearing has been postponed. This matter before the board will be rescheduled at February 23rd, 2021. And I'll turn the meeting over to Philip Dales.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Phil Dales, counsel to the board. At the beginning of every board meeting, council makes two announcements. The first is that the commissioners are part-time public servants. They have other outside interests besides their duties to this board. When they know that they have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest, they'll recuse themselves from any matter before the board. However, they cannot possibly know who will appear from the public in any given matter that may present a conflict of interest to them. If anyone in the public believes that any commissioner will have a conflict of interest in any matter, they'll have to let us know that. And when the case is called, come forward, and the commissioner or commissioners, as the case may be, will deal with it accordingly. If no one comes forward, then the commissioners will proceed with all hearings under the supposition that there is no conflict of interest. Secondly, the rules of the board provide that the chair, for purposes of administrative and judicial economy, can have board counsel, which is me, rule on admissibility of evidence and objections if there are counsel present and objections made. This board handles a multiplicity of cases at every hearing, and this assignment allows us to expedite the hearings. So rather than the chairman turning to me and I advise the chairman, I'll simply make a ruling, and my ruling will be that of the chair. Lastly, this is a COVID-19 hearing, and our rules are published online for anyone to read. The public can participate, but only by written statements presented to the board prior to the board hearing. Commissioners have read all applications, all exhibits submitted with the applications, including floor plans, documents, and other supporting material of that sort. The public is invited to listen and look at our hearings. There will be no public personal participation other than by the written statements, if previously submitted. With that, I'll turn the matter back to our Chief Inspector, who will call the first case.
Good evening. I'm Wayne Harris, Chief Inspector. The first case being called up is Plaza Liquors, known as Plaza Wine and Spirits, LLC. Huri Padadkante, Managing Member, and Yaya Lita Nithaputi, Member, and Inspector is Franklin J. Faulkner. There's no restrictions on this license. This is a transfer of location and change of class. It's located at 4125 Mountain Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. Currently a Class A license, which is beer, wine, and liquor. A beer, wine, and spirit tasting, as well as Sunday license. The new location for this establishment would be 4159 Mountain Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. This is a Class D license for beer, wine, and liquor. Has an entertainment, and requesting is restricted to TV privileges only, and Sunday license. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, we ask that you come forward, please.
Mr. Chairman, good evening, members of the board. For the record, my name is Linda Carter, and I'm the attorney for the applicants and existing licensees. I had spoken with them earlier today. I know they're supposed to be here. I assume they're having some technical difficulties because I am very anxious to be before you.
Yeah, they did register. I had them down as registering, but I do not see them popping in yet.
So if you'll give me just a couple of, I mean, with the board's pleasure, if you'd like to proceed to the next case, and I greatly appreciate you for taking me first. But while I could, I have to tell you, I would be remiss, and Mr. Dale, as well, I'm very excited to have you as counsel for the board. I would be remiss by saying I'm going to miss Harry terribly. I've known him for a very, very long time. He was a gentleman. He was an attorney's attorney, and he'll be sorely missed by everybody on this side, as well as I'm sure on everybody on your side. So
yes, he will.
Had to say something.
Thank you for those comments. Thank you.
And if I can, I will try and get a hold of my clients if with the board's permission.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gales, do you want me to move on to the second case?
We can rearrange the schedule to hear the second matter, second case, and come back this one.
Okay, this is Chief Inspector Wayne Harris. I'm calling Hook and Reel, known as the Cajun Glen Burnie LLC. Xiaoping Zhang, managing member, and Felix Avier Villa as a member. This is a new license, location of 6626 Ritchie Highway, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061. This is a Class H license requesting beer, wine, and liquor, entertainment, and restricted to TV privileges only, and a Sunday license. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please come forward. Raise your right hand. All right, I'm waiting for Zhang and Villa to appear in video and your muted audio.
Okay.
Mr. Villa, will you unmute your
There.
audio? Thank you. Zhao Zhang. We need to see your video and you're still muted audio.
Also like to see your mask down for a moment. Put it right back on again if you wish.
Okay.
Hi, this is Tavern.
Okay. I'm sorry, Commissioner Wilkins, did you say something, sir?
Yes, Felix, would you drop your mask just for a minute so we can get a video of your face? That's fine, thank you. And you too, man. Thank you very much.
Okay, would the three of you please raise your right hand
You can put the mask back up.
if you need to. Okay, raise your right hand, Mr. Mark.
Attorney.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, Mr. Mark. Okay, do solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Mr. Villa, answer, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Zhang? Is that affirmative? Yes? Okay, please state your name and addresses for the record, please.
My current address or
Your current address. Where do you live at?
I'm sorry, 7237 North Street, Philadelphia, 1919.
Okay, Mr. Villa?
Mr. Zhang, you may go ahead and mute your microphone now. I think we're getting feedback there. And you can go ahead and mute your microphone, please.
Okay, Mr. Villa, did you give us your address?
Yeah, 906 Tower Avenue, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Counsel, you're now free to present your case through either testimony of witnesses or through proffers. And I'll leave the floor to you now.
Thank you, counsel. My name is Gene Mark, and I represent Hook and Reel at Glen Burnie. We have applied for a Class H beer, wine, liquor license, entertainment, television only, and Sunday license. What I would like to do is to present the two applicants, Mr. Zhang and the resident agent, Mr. Villa. Do you wish me to just do a direct examination and then turn it over to the board?
You can do as you please. You can
Okay.
provide information or call them for answers.
Okay. First, I'd like to bring up Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang, are you there? Okay.
Yeah,
Can you-
I'm here.
All right. Can you please state your, I'm sorry.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I think the feedback is either caused by someone who's got two sources of input or audio to this meeting. If anyone's got both their phone and video turned on, then maybe mute one of those two sources as needed. I'm not quite sure. I thought it was Mr. Zhang's microphone before, but I'm not sure that that's right. If anyone does have two sources tapped into the meeting, please mute them.
Okay, my apologies. Felix, do you have just your computer on, or do you have your computer and your cell phone on?
Only my computer.
Okay.
It's Mr. Zhang.
Mr. Zhang, can you turn off your cell phone and just focus on your computer? Okay? And you need to turn off your mute button, Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang?
Mr. Zhang.
Okay. Mr. Zhang, are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you the managing member of Cajun Glen Burnie LLC?
Yes.
As the licensed member, do you plan to work full-time on the licensed premises?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever held an alcoholic beverage license?
No.
Okay. Do you have any financial interest in any other business that has an alcoholic beverage license?
No.
Have you read and do you agree to obey the rules and regulations covering the sale of alcoholic beverages in Anne Arundel County?
Yeah.
Have you been convicted of any felony or been found guilty of any offense against the laws of the United States?
No.
Have you ever been guilty of violating the laws governing the sale of any alcoholic beverage?
No.
How old do you have to be to buy alcoholic beverages?
He's
Okay. My apologies, wherever that's coming from. How old do you have to be to serve alcoholic beverages, Mr. Zhang?
Zhang's answer is 18.
Okay. Would you ask for ID for anyone who looks younger than 35 years of age? Okay. Have you completed an alcohol awareness training program? And can you please tell me what are the forms of acceptable ID?
Council, maybe,
Yes, I'm sorry.
that's right. I think it's just a matter of practicality. It's impossible for the board members to hear that answer. Some of the answers I think were discernible, but that one, the feedback has gotten to a point where it's hard to hear, and I can see the chair indicating that's the case. So I'm not sure if Mr. Zhang may be able to call into this meeting, and now that we've already had him sworn in on video, he could maybe answer just by telephone for clearer audio. Is that possible, Mr. Zhang?
So, Mr. Zhang,
Yes.
can we give you a telephone number and you can just answer the questions on the telephone?
Yeah.
Okay. Can
And
we get a
do you have that
telephone number?
Council? You can go ahead and mute your microphone. You can send in the chat a phone number for Mr. Zhang to call.
Yeah, I have muted him. There is a phone number that was sent to him when he registered. The link and the phone number is there. So as soon as he calls in, I can get him in the hearing.
Okay, Mr. Zhang,
I'm going to jump in and suggest he's called in on the phone as he read the instruction, and he also has the microphone for the computer turned on, and that's what the feedback is. So having him call in is not going to take us where we need to
If
go.
he is.
I just move away from him, so should be better now.
Oh, is that what was going on?
I think because it's better now.
That's what it is. He's on both the telephone, and,
Okay,
he cut his Bluetooth off. His Bluetooth is
Mr.
on.
Philo, will you mute your mic? Sir? Thank you.
All right, I just bumped him from the phone, so now it's just video.
Okay.
Should help.
okay,
Mr.
Mr.
Zhang?
Zhang, can you
Better.
tell us what the 5 forms of identification, acceptable identification are, please? Mr. Zhang, what are the 5 forms of acceptable identification? Mr. Zhang, is it possible for you to take your mask off where you are? We can't hear you clearly. Mr. Zhang, can you take your mask off? Okay, let's try this one more time. Mr. Zhang, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. What are the 5 forms of acceptable identification?
Okay. Hi.
Mr.
Sorry
Zhang?
about that.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Please answer the following question. What are the 5 forms of acceptable ID?
Driver license, military ID, big ID, state user, passport, and green card.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Vila, are you there? Can you take your mute button off, please? Thank you. Mr. Vila, are you the resident agent of Cajun Glen Burnie?
Yes,
Okay. And as licensed member and resident agent, will you from time to time conduct visits on a monthly basis and fully understand that you are responsible for seeing the rules and regulations of the County Liquor Board are complied with?
yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever held an alcoholic beverage license?
No, sir.
And do you have any financial interest in any other business that has an alcoholic beverage license?
No, sir.
Have you read and do you agree to obey the rules and regulations covering the sale of alcoholic beverages in Arundel County?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been convicted of any felony or
No,
been
sir.
found guilty of any offense against the laws of the United States?
No, sir.
Have you ever been guilty of violating the laws governing the sale of any alcoholic beverage?
No, sir.
How old do you have to be to buy alcoholic beverages?
21,
And how old do you have to be to serve alcoholic beverages?
18,
And will you ask for identification for anyone who looks younger than 35 years of age?
yes, sir.
Have you completed an alcohol awareness training program?
Yes, sir.
And what are the forms of acceptable ID?
Driver license, military picture ID, state ID, passport, and green card.
Okay, thank you. I would like to turn it over to the Liquor Board to give them an
Sure.
opportunity.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Chair, do you have questions for the applicant's counsel or for the applicants?
I've got a couple questions for the applicant. And I guess, Mr. Vila, I'm just curious about the restaurant. When do you expect to open?
We're open now.
Okay. And you're, as I understand, the overseer, and the other gentleman is the day-to-day manager?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, your job is what?
To check the restaurant.
He's
Okay,
just the resident agent. I'm sorry, Mr.
okay,
Chairman.
I got you. And the other guy's gonna manage the day-to-day?
Right. There's an actual manager, in addition to Mr. Zhang, who basically takes the back operation.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Commissioner Pilkins, Commissioner Duffy, do you have questions?
Yes, Commissioner Pilkins does. The manager isn't on the Zoom meeting. I take it that he's been adequately trained and has experience managing?
Yes, Commissioner, absolutely.
Certainly. Okay, thank you.
I just have one question in reference to his reply, in reference to the age to purchase liquor. I totally had a misunderstanding in his reply as to the age of purchasing and the age of serving. So if we could get him to reply to the serving age and selling age. I had a misunderstanding as to which, the 18 or the 21. Which
Are you referring to Mr. Vila?
No, I'm referring to Mr. Zane.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of background noise and I couldn't understand the age.
I apologize. Yes. Zhang, are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Can you please tell me how old you have to be to buy alcohol?
21 years old.
Okay. 21, correct? All right. And how old do you have to be to serve alcoholic beverages?
18.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. I have no other questions.
All right. So I think if that's the end of testimony from council, then we can turn to the board for deliberation and decision on the application.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we grant the license to the Hook and Reel, and looking for a second. Looking for a second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seems like we've. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for your cooperation and your patience with us this evening. Thank you.
All right, council, thank you. So the technology is tough these days.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're going to call the first case on the docket. Is that correct? Mr. Dale's Plaza Liquor.
Great.
Ms. Carter. Okay, welcome. All right. Again, we're calling Plaza Liquors. Do I need to reread the beginning of it, Mr. Dales, or are we okay with
Yeah,
that?
let's reintroduce the case.
Sure, absolutely. All right, this case is Plaza Liquors, known as Plaza Wine and Spirits LLC. Madhuri Pakadani, managing member, Laya Latifa Nesmith-Hundi, member, inspector is Franklin J. Faulkner. This is a non-restricted license, transfer of location, interchange of class. Present address is 4125 Mountain Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. It's a Class A for beer, wine, and liquor. The beer, wine, and spirits tasting, as well as Sunday license. The new location will be 4159 Mountain Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. It's a Class B beer, wine, and liquor, entertainment, and restricted to TV privileges only, and Sunday license. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand.
Monica, raise your hand, please. Thank you.
It won't let me talk.
Jaya,
I don't see yours.
Jaya, I can't see yours. I'm sorry. There you go. All right. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
They won't let me into talking.
but you coming to
Okay.
me, you coming
Please.
to my phone.
Please state your name and address for the record one at a time, please.
Go ahead. Road, Athens, Maryland.
Thank you. You can lower your hand, ma'am.
Madhuri Padkanti, 3942 Woodbury Meadow Drive, Fairfax, Virginia, 22033.
Thank you. You can lower your hand, ma'am. Ms. Jaya Nadapudi,
Yes, sir.
your name and address for the record, please.
Jaya Nintipudi, 3524, Flatwater Place, Laurel, 220724.
Very good. Thank you. You can lower your hand.
Hey, Ms. Carter, you're free to present the case for the transfer through the testimony of your witnesses or through proper.
Good evening. Thank you so much. With the board's permission, what I'd like to do is call Monica Refus, who's the manager of the property, just to do a very brief summary of what they're doing now, what they'd like to do. Just as way by background, if I could, proper for the board. First, we have filed an exhibit book with the board. I would respectfully request that the exhibit be introduced into evidence and be made part of the record. The exhibit book contains 5 sections: the floor plan of the new premises, photos of both the old and the new premises, the locations from the outside, a letter from the landlord in support of this transfer, the landlord's promotional package for this shopping center, and last but not least, petitions in support of this transfer and the change in the class of licenses. If I could do a proffer before I actually get to Monica and the licensees, both of whom have previously testified before this board in connection with this. My clients have been in operation at this location for, I believe, 4 years now. And during the time that they've been licensees, they've never had a violation. They've worked very hard to run this business according to the laws of the state and the rules of this board. There came a point when a unit opened up in the shopping center and the landlord actually approached them about moving. And they thought long and hard about it, and they decided that this would be a good thing for their customers. What they're proposing is a little bit different, and that's why we're asking for the Class B license of restricted on and off sale. If you've had a chance to look at the floor plan, you notice there's a small bar with 10 to 12 seats. The purpose of this bar is to allow them to do, not only to let a customer come in and maybe have a drink while their spouse is shopping, but also to allow customers to come in and sample paid samples of multiple products. As you all know, there are limitations on the amount of alcohol that liquor that can be served in a tasting with an A, of wine, of beer. What they're proposing is, for instance, they would do a flight. You like Pinots? They'll pour out 6 Pinots and charge you $20, but let you taste all 6 Pinots, one next to each other. Not enough to get drunk, not full glasses, obviously, but enough to taste it and decide what you want. It's just not doable under a Class A license. The current location is about 3,200 square feet. The new location would be almost 6. Currently they have, and Mike, if I misspeak, I'm just trying to expedite this because we've already delayed the board because we had some technical difficulties on our end. If I misspeak, please correct me. We currently have about 2,000 SKUs of wine and 500 SKUs of beer and 1,500 SKUs of liquor, all of which are going to increase by 25 to 30% at the new location. And I misspoke. I said 4 years. They've actually been there since 2014. This move, they're going to probably spend about $250,000 in the move, not including inventory. They currently have, I believe, 6 employees. If they move into the location, they're hoping to double that. They require that their employees all be alcohol awareness certified now. That's not going to change at the new location. They do not accept vertical IDs. And their COVID hours now are a little bit reduced. They close Sundays through Thursdays at 8, opening at 9 in the morning. And on Saturdays and Fridays, they stay open till 9, again, opening at 9 in the morning. And on Sundays, they close at 7 and not 8 on Sundays. Monica, did I misspeak on anything?
No.
Okay. Monica, you've had a chance to actually talk to your customers about this, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And they're all really excited?
They are really excited. And we're looking for the opportunity to do this to just provide more selection for our current customers.
You're not really doing this to increase, you obviously increase your volume because you're going to have more product to sell. And the additional space and the additional inventory investment will allow you to offer product which you currently can't get. Is that correct?
That's correct. What happens in the wholesalers is a store of our current size, we can't support the brands that we need to support to get the limited and allocated products. So a store with the square footage that we're looking at, that allows us to support more brands, hold more inventory. At the same time, that gives our current customers a larger selection. And then in turn, the wholesalers will allow us to purchase the more limited bourbons and rare scotches, which a lot of the clientele today is looking for.
Thank you. How far is it from your existing location to the new location if you were to walk it?
It's about 100 steps.
Yeah, you paced it off for me yesterday, right? And have you heard anybody be upset about what you were proposing?
No, all of our
believe that
customers are very excited.
And do you believe that the granting of this transfer of location and the change from a Class A to a D would serve to accommodate your customers?
Yes.
And do you believe it will be a threat to the peace and safety of the community? And you're not going to turn this into a wild and crazy bar with entertainment, correct?
No.
And in fact, you would be willing to put a restriction on this, that you would never ask for entertainment.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I would have no other questions of this witness.
Yeah, Chairman Maloney, I have no questions.
Well, Commissioner Pilkins has a couple of comments he wants to make. The D license was never designed to have a full packaged goods store and a couple of tasting booths. It was supposed to be a tavern with the privilege of having some off sale. So I've had a difficult time with this ever since it's been presented, because you're making a great presentation. And I think it would be a very well-run establishment, but it's setting a precedent in my way of thinking. And that gives me a great deal of worry, because there is a lack of guidelines for this particular D license with the off-sale permission, that we are trying to find some solution for guidance. So I need to get that on the record, because I find that even though your presentation is great and all the pieces fit together, I see a license issue with it. So I just want that on the record.
If I could address?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Pilkin. I certainly understand your position, and I've given a lot of thought to this. A Class D license does say tavern in parentheses, And I think generally that was the way people regarded it. We are in an industry that is changing so rapidly. And there are times that I think the board has to look at the fluidity, is that a word, of the alcoholic beverages article in connection with the changes in the industry. Right now, as we're here before you today, there is nothing in the board rules, there is nothing in the state law that says a D can't be used this way. And a long time ago, and I think Mrs. Hagner can remember, there was a liquor store on West Street, and it was a D, and it had, I think, 3 stools at the very back of the, there was a bar with 3 stools. And my client, I remember it well, had actually tried to take the stools out, and the inspector said, this is a D, you got to have the stools. He wanted to run an A, just A. He really didn't want people drinking on the premises. We actually do. We just don't want them over drinking on the premises. We want to be able to give them an experience that they can't get in our current location. This would give them that opportunity to do the flight of wines or to do a flight of Pappies when you guys get Pappy, to be able to do something that can't be offered with the tasting license. And I would strongly suggest to the board that until and unless the board adopts a rule that prohibits the use of a D in this way, this is a perfectly permissible use.
Thank you, Council. I'm going to remind board members of my advice on this matter, which is that the applications for D licenses, including on-off sales space, be assessed on whether they have addressed the required criteria in the alcoholic beverage article and in board's rules for the showing of public need and public welfare and safety. It is true that the Class D license is more than parenthetically a tavern license, is also defined as that in our rules. However, I do not see that this is specifically prohibited by our rules of the alcoholic beverage article. And so I would counsel the question for the board is whether the criteria for the transfer of use of the license have been met in this instance.
Thank you, Phil. One more comment I'm going to add to the record. What happens is if we don't find a solution to this, because I may be the only person who thinks there's a problem, but we have lots of D licenses now who want to be almost a full-fledged Class A. So when you think about that mix, jumping in on top of your proposed use of your Class D, you can see how that could be a problem competitively.
And
So,
Mr. Pilkin, I absolutely agree. I understand what you're saying, but
and I'm not to cut you off, but I'm going to finish the
I
conversation.
cut you off. I apologize.
I just wanted to get that on the record so that you understand our situation. I haven't voted yes or no yet. I just wanted that on the record so everyone knows that we're working hard to accommodate everybody.
No, and I greatly appreciate that. And I guess from my perspective, one of the distinct advantages that you have as being a board is you have the right and the obligation to weigh each application on its own merits. And from my perspective, if you have an existing license and you want to change and the licensee wants to make a change in the mode of operation, I think they have to come before you on that. When we appear before you, we make representations and you grant that license, in my mind, based on those representations. And if we deviate from those representations without the board's approval, I think, quite frankly, that's cause for suspension or revocation. And I tell my clients all the time. So I don't think that giving this a Class D to these applicants tonight precludes you from denying a Class D to become a liquor store, or a Class A to become a D in another location if they're not providing the board with the same sense of, 6 years worth of experience, everybody's certified, neighborhood wants, it's in a great location type of thing.
Thank you. And so this board is going to assess the each application on its own merits on a case-by-case basis.
Your comments are correct, Ms. Carter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pilkins.
This is,
Commissioner Duffy.
Just cut yourself off, Mr. Duffy.
Microphone. There we go.
this is Commissioner Duffy. Thank you, Ms. Carter, for your explanation. However, I do have one question. In reference to the flight that you are going to serve individuals consisting of 6 small jeeps, how many flights are you intending? How many flights will you be serving individual? Do you have an idea, an estimate at this point in time?
Yeah, if I could, I'd actually like to ask Monica that because she is their hands-on
Okay,
manager
please.
that has lots of experience.
Because I know six is in a flight.
So what we would do is it would just be a choice of a beer or wine flight. And it would be 1 ounce per glass in the flight and 3 to 4 glasses. So you're looking at 3 to 4 ounces in each flight. Now we're all currently alcohol awareness certified and will continue to be any new employees that do come on board. And my experience, my background is in the restaurant and bar industry. So I'm very well versed into what is just enough and what is too much. So we definitely don't want this to be a bar that people just come to just sit at and drink all night. We're just trying to offer our current customers the opportunity to taste new products and see what's out there. And I think we've all seen over the past couple of years, the amount of new wine, beer, and spirits in the industry is grown. Everybody has a distillery or a winery now. So we're just trying to accommodate our customers and allowing them to responsibly taste what is new in the market.
Okay, I mean, the fact is that everybody will be tip certified and trained, so through observation, they can recognize when an individual is becoming tipsy or whatever the case might be. So that's fine. I just wanted to ask the question to be on record.
And my apologies to the board, but one of the things that I neglected to tell this board is one of the things that we're going to be doing here is not only having a growler station, which obviously lots of places are now doing, but we're also going to have wine machines. And these wine machines allow the liquor store and the bar component of this to open a bottle of wine under pressurized conditions so that the remainder still stays good. They can have a variety of wines available for tasting by the customers. Again, paid tastings, no free tastings with D. And that wine alone is $20,000.
And if I may, for a quick second, the wine machine that Ms. Carter is speaking of allows us to press a button that says 1 ounce. So there's not an opportunity for our staff to over pour.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I have no other questions. Mr. Dale, Commissioner.
That conclude questions from the board to the applicant and council.
Yeah, this is the chairman, and I've got a couple of comments also. In light of moving from an A to a D, and you're right about this industry that's moving much quicker than I think some of the boards can really follow up on. But I've got a concern going to a D license because in essence, the D isn't designed specifically for that purpose. And we have issues with, or some thoughts where those taverns that want to become liquor stores, and we've got some issues with that. So I just want to make that point, and if there are no other questions, I would be willing to entertain a motion. Any
Well,
thoughts?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Duffy. Based upon all the facts that have been presented, I would like to make a motion that we approve this transfer of a Class D license and entertainment restricted to TV privilege and a Sunday license.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second that motion from Commissioner Duffy.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried.
Thank you so much. You all have a great evening and be safe as she picks up her mask. Thank you, gentlemen and staff, as always.
Good night. The next case will be Paint Nail Bar Annapolis LLC, also known as Paint Nail Bar Annapolis LLC. Stephen Schollenberger is a member. Samantha Abram Gilmore is a member. The inspector is Alan Levy. This is a new license located at 2077 Somerville Road, Suite 156, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. This is a Class BS for beauty salon. It's beer and wine license. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please come forward and raise your right hands, please. Okay, do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, both acknowledge yes. If you can lower your hands and please state your name and address for the record, please.
Stephen Keith Schollenberger. My address is 1903 Town Center Boulevard, apartment 520, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Thank you, ma'am.
Samantha Abrams Gilmore, 217 Old Mill Bottom Road South, Annapolis, Maryland, 21409.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, so for the applicants, we'd like to proceed with testimony to the board to support your case for the license. You now have 30 minutes to present your case.
Great, thank you. So just to tell you a little bit, Paint Nail Bar is something that we're super excited about. It is a franchise coming out of Sarasota. There's 18 locations currently across the country. We are very different than a traditional nail salon. Our main focus is really client engagement, outside of the fact that we have products that are non-toxic, much better for the body, much better for the environment, and insanely good sanitary protocols. But being that really what sets us apart is client engagement from the moment that a client calls in to book. Just the care that we take with them, how we get to know them. And we want their experience not just be, oh, I got a great manicure and pedicure, but really experiential. They can feel relaxed, they can feel pampered, and just truly have that time to themselves, especially in this current world that we live in, which a lot of people don't have time for themselves anymore because they're doing everything from home. And so one of the things that we offer as a brand are mimosas. And so that is something that we are hoping to get and applying for the BS Class BS license in order to be able to provide that service for our clients who are of age to be able to just sit and relax and have that mimosa while they're there with their friends, if they're there for a party, or just taking some time for themselves. And it's pretty much a mimosa per service. Is not something that's just the pour it keeps going. It's one for the client per their service, whether they're there for an hour or 2 hours. And that's pretty much paint in a nutshell.
Okay, is there any other testimony from the applicant?
No.
All right, so Mr. Chair, do you have questions for the applicant? You're muted, Mr. Maloney. Still muted, Chairman Maloney. There we go.
John Maloney. What type of beverages? Wine and beer, etc. How many varieties are you going to serve?
We're actually just going to serve mimosas. We like to just keep it pretty much simple at that. It's just that slightly elevated drink that goes with feeling pampered and relaxed.
Okay, great. I missed that part, but
okay.
Thank you, and no other questions.
Okay.
Commissioner Pilkins, you're aware there's some limitations on how much quantity can be imbibed by your clients?
Correct. I'm sorry, did I miss the question or?
I don't know if Commissioner Pilkins is following up or not. Are you muted, Commissioner Pilkins, if you're following up?
Yeah, no, she answered my question quite nicely. That's all I wanted to know.
Commissioner Duffy.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I have no questions.
Okay. Seeing no questions, and I'd like to make a motion. I guess it's to approve our first Class BS license to and mail bar. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion's carried.
I just wish it had a different title rather than BS, you know.
I fully agree. That's not a good one. That's just like my degree from college. I got a BS.
So we're the first?
So we're the first? That's so exciting. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. And
thank you.
Where to come if you need your nails done.
By the way, how much did it cost you to have all those wonderful write-ups from those people? All of the wonderful things they said. My God, I'm going to steal them now and put my name on them.
Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate that.
Good luck to you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
The next case is a request to appear. The first one is After Deck Sports Bar and Grill, known as EPB Operating Company LLC, Emery W. Burchett, member Patty G. Burchett, member. Inspector is Franklin J. Faulkner. This is a non-restricted license requesting alterations and change in trade name and change in the operating hours, located at 342 Magathie Beach Road, Pasadena 21122. It's a Class D license for beer, wine, and liquor, has dancing and Sunday special permits. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Step in, please.
We gotta step in.
Yeah, we need to see everybody, please. Raise your right hands.
Let's get some masks down for a moment too, so we can get.
And gentlemen, Commissioner Pilkins, good evening. Richard Bittner, on behalf of the applicants. I have some elderly clients here. There's some health problems, and most respectfully, we've asked that the masks not be taken down. We're really close.
Mr. Pilkins, I think if Mr. Bittner will affirm for us as an officer of the court, these are the people who are identified. We don't need to see their faces. I think for health reasons they can keep them up.
Then in fact, Mr. Bittner does have to identify them. Then he does know them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's just do it then, Mr. Bittner.
They will take note first.
I'd like to, like everybody who has their hand raised, take the oath. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please answer, everybody.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, one at a time, please state your name and address for the record.
Emery Burchett. Gordon Clifford,
I need addresses, please.
362 Riverside Drive, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122.
Thank you.
Mine's 846 Swift Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122.
Thank you.
Good day, Gotra, 909 South Victor Road, Tavern, Maryland, 21144.
Thank you.
John Houghton, 316 Riverside Drive, Pasadena, Maryland.
Abby Burchett, 846 Swift Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122.
And Gerald Patno, 1050 Crestway, York, Pennsylvania, 17403.
And Mr. Bittner, you're affirming that those people who have just identified themselves and their addresses are, you know them to be the people that they've said themselves to be.
Personally acquainted with all of them. I know them to be the persons that they identified themselves as.
Thank you. Okay, hang on 1 minute here before we proceed. Mr. Chair, we've asked the licensees for the next 2 items on the agenda to make their expert witnesses available to answer questions from the board about the expert testimony that was submitted in writing. In light of that request, my advice to the board is that a motion is in order to postpone the rule in place currently that limits licensee presentations to the board to 30 minutes. That's my recommendation to you, that given our request to them, that such a motion should be made for the next 2 items.
And I'll so moved.
No objection.
And we'll need the commissioners
Yeah,
a
we'll
second.
make
And I think we've lost Commissioner Duffy temporarily. Ed, has Commissioner Duffy said anything to you?
Well, I'll second it, and then John and I can approve it. Yeah.
It's second, and those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's carried. Okay.
All right, so we can proceed now. Mr. Bittner, the floor is yours to present your case and your request through a proffer or testimony of your witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Gales. Point of inquiry is Commissioner Duffy participating? Oh, there, it's okay. Thank you. May it please the board, Chairman Maloney, Commissioner Pilkins, Commissioner Duffy, staff. My name is Richard Bittner, and I represent the applicants for this request to alter premises, change of hours and change of name. At the outset, I can't help but think of our dear friend Harry Blumenthal in words that he often said to me, and I'm sure to you and others, that the liquor board is not in business to put anyone out of business. And with that background, I'd like to move in initially our request, our application for alterations, exhibits 1 through 9 that were previously filed, and ask that they be admitted. And I believe under your rule, they already are. Next, I would move to admit and qualify Dr. Panadode as an expert witness on alcoholic beverages, their need, off-sale, on-sale, public accommodation, and any effects that alcohol beverage off-sale businesses may have on the surrounding community. Under Rule 5700, let's say, I've submitted Dr. Panatode's curriculum vitae in his report. Dr. Panatode has testified before the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, I believe, some 20 times. I'd ask that you'd accept him as an expert now without further testimony. I'm happy to provide that. I believe he's well known to you. His CV clearly outlines his extensive academic background.
Mr. Bittner, yeah, the board will take notice of Mr. Panatode's CV. And with regard to the evidence you've asked the board to take in to account this evening and make part of the record, the board is going to accept the written evidence that you've submitted, but would point out to you that the rules ordinarily require that the written testimony come in 10 days in advance of the hearing, and that has not been the case in this matter. Nevertheless, in this instance, the board is inclined to accept the written testimony that you provided in evidences for this record.
Thank you. With that, if I may, before I proceed with my proffer, I'd ask the board a bit of indulgence to provide what I believe would be some helpful background information on a Class D tavern license. And I was present at the prior hearing for Plaza Liquors, and in all due respect to Ms. Carter, tavern is not in parentheses. Class D license is a tavern license. That's what it is. It's not a bar license. It's not anything else. And in that note, a tavern, certainly I think the board would recognize is one of the oldest existing commercial enterprises that we have in human existence. Remains of taverns have been found in Pompeii. We know the integral part that alcohol and the sale of alcohol and the consumption of alcohol played in ancient societies, including Egypt, Rome, and Greece. And we also know the essential role that taverns played in the founding of our own country. A tavern, gentlemen, is more than a bar. It's more than a place to consume alcoholic beverages on site. And it has always been. It's always been throughout the history of alcohol and alcohol regulation in the United States. The founding fathers met regularly at the Green Dragon Tavern in Boston. The Continental Congress met at the City Tavern in Philadelphia. It's said that the first recruiting office for the United States Marine Corps was at the Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. When one thinks of taverns, I suggest most respectfully that they think much broader than a bar, and that's why it's definitionally and conceptually different than a bar. One only need to think of Abraham Lincoln as he traveled about as a young attorney, staying in taverns, staying in hotel rooms in taverns. Courtrooms were a feature in taverns. One only needs to think of Roy Bean, Judge Roy Bean, holding court in his tavern. Taverns have also been associated with fine dining venues. Tavern on the Green in New York City comes to mind. Sadly, recently, because of changing public desires, has gone out of business. Taverns were a place where the community gathered. Newspapers were often read out loud. Declaration of Independence was first read at taverns across the country. In the history of Anne Arundel County, as well, taverns have followed the lead in addressing the needs of their community as those needs evolved and developed. Taverns existed here in Anne Arundel County in a variety of forms, in a variety of iterations, and provided a variety of services. Taverns in Anne Arundel County have hosted grocery and dry good businesses, post offices, barber shops. They act as restaurants, meeting places, rallying points for community events, and even have served as polling places. I've asked the board that you take note that in Arundel County, there exists currently 92, now 93, if I understand the ruling in Plaza Liquors. Dr. Pannon can testify to this, he's done the analysis, but I'm advised, and your records will bear out, that of those 92 Class D licenses, now with Plaza Liquors, some 21 of them market themselves, identify themselves, and or refer to themselves as liquor stores. Barely 15 have the name tavern or bar in it. Some 15 only recognize as themselves as restaurants. Other Class D licenses take the form of yacht clubs, VFW halls. So I would ask the board, most respectfully, to examine what I've heard enunciated as the board's philosophy or policy as it pertains to how a tavern license may be operated and whether or not a tavern license may have retail space for the sale of alcoholic beverages off sale. And specifically, there are no limitations on how a Class D license owner operator can engage their business. The only restriction is the restriction on 10,000 square feet. There are no others, simply. And the board, most respectfully, cannot substitute its philosophy for that rule. We're asking these alterations to be granted at this Class D license, tavern license, currently holding music, dancing, and off-sale privileges. The license, we believe, and I'll proffer from Mr. Hoffman and Mr. Clifford, who are residents of the neighborhood, Mr. Clifford since 1948 and Mr. Hoffman since 1953, I believe he told me, shake it in the affirmative, that they would tell you that there has always existed a Class D license at this location, that previously the license operated as a full grocery store, it operated as a liquor store, it operated as a barber shop, it operated as a carry-out deli. In fact, at one time, it even sold kerosene. At one time, it was a destination dine-in food service. At one time, it served the neighborhood in conjunction with a Class A license approximately 2 blocks away that operated as a full grocery store. The board will take notice, and I believe some of the board and staff were members when that license was revoked for sales to minors. It was not revoked, not shut down because of any lack of community desire support. It was taken because of bad management. Unfortunately, shortly thereafter, the grocery store burned down. So the neighborhood now has no operating off-sale premises, grocery stores, Class A's, delis, nothing. And Mr. Hoffman and Mr. Clifford would tell you that. Now, as I indicated, the request is to modify the bar area, and you have this as Exhibit 3, 2 and 3, is to modify the existing bar area. And gentlemen, you'll see in the plans that this is a full-service bar. It has music, it has dancing, and the proposal is to reduce it down. There would still be some 24 seats, 4 more than Plaza had. In addition, there's counter space that could accommodate approximately 18. The intention here, and I introduced to you Mr. Dave Gothra. Dave, did you wave your hand? That's G-H-O-T-R-A. Mr. Gothra was the gentleman who operated the convenience store down the street, no alcohol sales, until it burned down. It's his intention, with strong community support, to modify the after deck into a deli type convenience store, providing a full range of services, on-site consumption of food, carry-out consumption of food, grocery items. No kerosene is anticipated to be sold. Servicing the neighborhood almost exactly the type of use that had existed at this location or just up the street from this location for about 50 years. We're requesting a change of hours, less hours, which Mr. Hoffman and Mr. Clifford, you may recall, since they testified before you when there was an attempt to transfer this license about a year ago and maintain it as a tavern, that the neighborhood didn't want a tavern. So they're reducing the hours, they're requesting their hours be Sunday, Thursday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Requesting that the new name reflect Riverside Food and Spirits. Now, again, gentlemen, by way of proffer, I most respectfully would suggest that the standard of review for this application falls under Rule 4.18, alterations, and has to be analyzed in the scope and the purview of what I think is the controlling case in this point as to your authority in this area, and that's Sullivan versus Board of License Commissioners for Prince George's County, 293 Maryland, 113, 1982. And what Rule 418 and what Sullivan, I believe, speak to and hold to, that if a request for alterations, because again, this is not a new license. This is not a new license. This is not governed by Alcoholic Beverages Article 4-210. Standard of review here is there a desire from the community for this need, and will the alterations adversely affect the health, safety, welfare of the community? Superimposed on that is Alcoholic Beverage Rule 4-206, limiting any retail space to 10,000 square feet. The after deck, Riverside Food and Spirits, is requesting 963 square feet of retail space. Now, is storage space, 11,043, doesn't anywhere approach the 10,000 limit. In fact, you'll hear from Dr. Panatoad that a retail off-sale licensed establishment of 963 square feet would be about half the low average of retail spaces. Low average of retail space is about 1,500 square feet, I believe Dr. Panatoad would tell you. So this is a very small part of the business, but it's an integral part of the business. And we know it's an integral part of the business because that's what the community has asked for. We have submitted 15 pages of proffers, 15 pages of petitions, some 70 neighbors in support. We've submitted 16 letters from neighbors in support. There are no oppositions, no opponents to this request, either from the community or surrounding industry, surrounding businesses. The board has asked us to address the question of these new privileges, these alterations, not privileges, new alterations, that they may have any effect on existing licenses without waiving that point, because again, I don't believe it applies here. That's a criteria in the issuance of a new license, not in the issuance of a new alteration or use. But Dr. Panatoad's report, as admitted, clearly documents that there is no effect on existing businesses. Plaza Liquors, one of the businesses in our catchment area, requested the same privileges. No one objected, no neighborhood, no business, and they didn't object to ours. So there is no effect on existing businesses. And part of the reason, and Dr. Panatoad's report bears this out, is that this license is in a really unique position, unique location, at the end of a dead-end road on a peninsula that is a branch of a larger peninsula. And certainly the board is well acquainted with the Pasadena Peninsula. And the after deck is at the end of Magothy Beach Road. And that would just, as an aside, this location at the end of a dead-end road right in the middle of the community belies the fact that it's existed, we believe since Prohibition, we have it at least till 1948, but historically, it was a summer type neighborhood, a water neighborhood. It still is. There's a large marina within walking distance of the establishment. There's a community park within walking distance of the establishment. So this area attracts a lot of outside weekend residents, a lot of families who come to visit their families who visit on the peninsula. And there simply is nothing else there. There's no place to get a sandwich. There's no place to get a cup of coffee. There's no place to get a beer. And that's what Mr. Gothra wants to remedy and put this establishment that essentially has been shuttered over the last few years, which had in past been a problem with the community with noise and loitering and litter, all of which will be avoided and ameliorated by this change of use. Simply not going to have issues that crop up. We've often heard it said that bad things happen after midnight. This establishment closes at 11. It's no longer open until 2. And neighbors will tell you that they support that. By way of proffer, and to illustrate the question of effect on the community and neighboring businesses, Dr. Paneto's report references that there have been a large population increase as well as income increase in the area, disproportionate to nationwide and statewide averages that increases buying power. As I indicated to you, in spite of population increases and income increases, no new licenses have been granted in the area. And in fact, a license was lost when the grocery store lost its license. So turning, if I may, continuing my proffer, as to the standard of review in this case, there clearly is, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, a compelling public need as demonstrated by Dr. Paneto's report, the petitions in support, testimony, and what I proffer would be the strong support of Gordon Clifford, who's chairman of the board, the McAfee Beach Improvement Association, and John Hoffman Jr., who's the president of the McAfee Beach Improvement Association, who've both taken their time to come in here today and tell you that they believe that this license is needed for the accommodation of the public, that it would not adversely affect the health, safety, welfare of the community, and as there are no businesses nearby, that it wouldn't be affecting. They further would tell you that if these activities, they believe it would in fact be a positive effect on the community, of reducing the likelihood of crime, noise, traffic. With that proffer said, I will tell you as a wrap up, the Brichettis, who've been the owners of the establishment, Mr. Guthra came to them, was interested in opening up the convenience store. They're trying to put together a buy and sell. The first step is seeking your approval and allowing this type of alteration, new hours and name. So that's why Mr. Brichetti and Mrs. Brichetti are here. And you've heard what I've said. Is everything that I've said to the board true and correct?
Yes.
Mr. Guthra is here, and I proffer to you that he is a well-known established businessman. He does not have any involvement in any alcoholic beverage licenses, but he runs a number of convenience stores. When the old Lucky Supermarket unfortunately went bankrupt, he was fortunate with his family able to purchase a couple of them, and he operates them as independent stores. He's well versed in his obligations because they sell tobacco at those stores. He understands carding. We have submitted to you what would be, if these alterations are granted, his plans to address any underage sales. Mr. Guthra is going to be purchasing ID scanners. He's got a written policy regarding carding of minors or youthful looking persons, I should say, because he intends to card anyone under age of 40. under age 35. He has to use an ID scanner. So he understands what it would take if the alterations are approved and then the transfer is ultimately granted to him. And you've heard, sir, what I've had to say. Is everything true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes.
As I've indicated, gentlemen, Gordon Clifford, chairman of the board, John Hoffman are here. They've been sworn in. They're in the hall. They've been listening to anything. Mr. Clifford, first, sir, is what I've told the board true and accurate?
Let me see if I can remember here. Yes, it is.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just for the fact that we would look forward to once again having the grocery store and everything tied in there because the community does need it. Dave is really going exemplar from running the other grocery store and really improved it and has a lot of community support. He's also attended several of our association meetings and spoken with members, and they are well versed with him and would be looking forward to this opportunity to go forth.
Does the board have any questions of Mr. Clifford? Thank you.
Is somebody speaking?
That's us.
Mr. John Hoffman? Sir, you've heard what I've proffered to the board. Is Mr. Hoffman is president of the Maggie Beach Improvement Association. You've heard what I've proffered to the board.
Yes.
Is that all true and accurate to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Now that Dave had the store operating for what, 18 months or so before the fire, and we want the store back because you can go up to the corner and get your lunch meats cut, sliced, get your bread, milk, and whatnot. As it is now, you got to go 3 miles up the road to even get to a store. And he's operated an excellent store for the time he's been there. And he's got a lot of support from the community at this point.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Hoffman? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have Dr. Patitude here. I had intended to have him available prior to your request of last week. So he is here. He's happy to answer any of your questions. And before he does that, Doctor, have I accurately characterized your report, recommendations, and opinions?
To a fair amount, I agree, yes.
And sir, tell us why you think this alteration is needed and desired by the public and would not adversely affect the health, safety, welfare of the community, and what, if any, effect alteration request, if granted, would have on existing businesses?
I think the need for having an additional outlet within the market area is well measured and well documented. I think the addition to less than 1,000 square feet would be a welcome addition for the community and not much of a competitive threat to the A licenses and the other Ds in the area that in which they compete with. I think this particular facility and the requested alterations rebuild is being done in such a way is that there's certainly ample parking. It's not creating any additional traffic issues. I see no way in which it inhibits public health or safety in any manner.
And retail square footage, including storage and off-site premises, is under 10,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Yes.
In fact, it's just barely 2,000 square feet, including the storage. Is that right?
Correct.
board's witness.
Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for any of the applicants, counsel, or for the applicant's expert. Go ahead and ask those now.
Yeah, this is the chairman. This message is for Dr. Patno. You had submitted a number of pop facts, demographics, several.
Yes.
And I just wondered specifically how this information is pertaining to this particular location.
Well, the way that I look at markets, most people, they'll look at a market in a 1, 3, or 5 mile radius. And that really doesn't take into account the way people shop, where they drive, or do anything of this nature. So I always evaluate a market in terms of driving time. And driving time is calculated through a computer system. It calculates average traffic and speed limits and things of this nature. And we know through numerous studies that most people will travel either 5 or 10 minutes to go to buy alcoholic beverages. For the most part, most people travel within 15 minutes max to go to the grocery store. And so if you look within the report, you see something that looks more like an amoeba than the concentric circles from the location. And so that the amoeba-looking territory is where that population is derived from. So I'm able to do a 5-minute and 10-minute drive time from the proposed location and capture what is the demographic profile within that market area. All right, and that all comes from census data, and it all comes off of geocoding, census maps, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. The actual, you say the drive time is computerized?
It is.
Okay, so it's not, you're not looking at the way the crow flies in any way?
No, it is definitely computerized on average traffic patterns and speed limits. And it averages out over a period of a day.
Okay, how does all of this information, all of this data, create a need for this location and their expansion?
Well, what it does, it allows me to look at the population within that area, and what becomes the critical factor is what is the demand for alcoholic beverage, all right? And so through utilizing data that comes from consumer expenditure surveys and a variety of other governmental sources, I'm able to look at the population within that amoeba, if you will, the what I'll call the market area, and I can tell you what they're spending on alcoholic beverage simply because of the surveys. And interestingly enough, if you look at the report, we found that the current household demand for off-sale consumed at-home alcoholic beverage generated solely from the residents within the 10-minute drive time, it's approximately $5,711,302 annually. The market potential for this area is actually $7,530,000. And this is based on, again, consumer expenditure surveys and what people spend and where they're spending it. So what this is actually telling me is that we might even have a situation where people are spending more outside the market area than they're spending in the market area. I would suggest that that may indicate a lack of availability or supply within the area.
Okay, I have no more questions.
The other commissioners have questions for the applicant's witness.
Commissioner Pilkins, I have a couple of questions. I found that the offering that provided the board was very difficult to read. And that's why I thought we were going to have a lot of questions, because I just didn't understand some of it because I couldn't read some of it. So that's for the record. Secondly, I don't see any storage area for the alcoholic beverages on your drawing. Did I miss that?
Commissioner Pilkins, is that question directed?
I did not submit a drawing. I only submitted market analysis.
Oh, well, I guess.
I don't believe that question is directed to you. I think that question about the drawings would be directed to the applicant.
Yeah, so thank you for clarifying that, Phil.
If I may, exhibit 2 has this schematic for the basement, if you would, that shows the existing basement, 1,650 square feet. It's not currently used for anything, but we submitted it to, I believe the board needs to consider that as part of the criteria under 4206.
So the building square footage 3625 includes the basement space as well?
No, Commissioner, the first floor is 3625.
Okay.
And then the first floor is what is open to the public. Of the whole floor, 3625, 963 square feet would be dedicated to the sale of alcoholic beverages. That includes the storage space behind, and this is in Exhibit 2, page 1. That includes the storage space for the coolers right behind where the alcoholic beverages are displayed. And then to give the board full disclosure and full clarity, as I understood the rule, you had to consider the storage space as well. So we submitted the basement to show what is potentially storage space. Right now it's vacant. It's not anticipated to be used because they have sufficient storage space for this small retail area in the coolers on the first floor.
Yeah.
Those plans were sent to Dr. Patitude and he reviewed them as part of his report. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yeah, Dr. Patno it is, but yes, it is.
I think I've said it 16 different ways.
You have indeed.
And you're aware of the plans of the upper deck both as they exist now and as proposed, and you use that in your analysis. Is that right?
I did.
You have any questions for the applicant or the expert?
Was that addressed to me?
Yeah, Mr. Wilkins, I think you were asking questions, so I was bringing it back to you to continue with questions.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I like the way the design is. I like the fact that there's a little bar area there, and I think it's sized properly for the neighborhood. And I'm really okay with almost everything. The questions have been answered. I like the fact that that you've got experienced people running the place. The only thing I would add, and this will be for the other commissioners to agree to, obviously, is that, and you all as well, would be that any change of hours would require a public hearing. Because I think the hours that you have swung me over rather than the 2 a.m. thing, because I think the community probably had some issues to deal with because of the late hours in the years past. Because I remember I've been around the liquor board here for a long time, so a lot of that stuff sticks, but I don't have any specifics, but I think I remember some issues down there. However, I'm fine with that. I don't have any more questions, as long as, but we do need to my suggestion and see if it flies.
We'll time for that deliberation. Commissioner Wilkins, Commissioner Duffy, do you have questions for the applicant or the expert?
He's on mute.
Still muted, Commissioner Duffy. Still on mute, Commissioner Duffy. There you go.
No, I just want to echo on my fellow commissioner in reference to the hours. I was concerned about the hours myself in remembering incidents that have been in the past in reference to the hours. So that question has been addressed already, or will be addressed in reference to the hours of operation. But other than that, I have no other questions.
Okay, there are no further questions, I have some testimony from the public to read into the record. Mr. Bittner, for your benefit, as you're aware, the public is not permitted to provide oral testimony at these meetings, but they can provide it by written testimony, and we do have one piece of written testimony that I'm going to read into the record, and it is here from a Mr. Walters.
Excuse me, Mr. Dales.
Yeah.
We haven't been provided a copy of what you're going to read. I don't know if it's pro or con specifically.
Mr. Bittner, you'll have a chance to respond to this after I read it in. It is opposition testimony that would ordinarily be provided orally at a hearing like this, but because of the pandemic rules, we are only accepting that by writing. So I'm going to read it into the record and give you a chance to respond to it.
So, certainly, and I understand all that, but when I inquired of staff on Friday, if there had been any objections or anything filed, I was advised no.
I believe we received this today and only accepted the written testimony this late because we were agreeing to accept the written testimony and evidence late as well.
Well, the rules, fine.
Okay. This is the testimony of Mr. Ben Walters. After inquiring about the hearing, he wrote the following. Thank you for the information. I was only informed by a neighbor and did not think to check your website. Sorry, I still think a notice would be nice posted on the building, as not many people follow the liquor board website. Any changes are very important to our community as the impact would be very serious. The After Deck Bar has been closed for many years and the rumors are very concerning. Thanks again. I do appreciate your response, period. Now, Mr. Bittner, you should have the opportunity to respond to that bit of testimony.
I have no comment.
Okay. All right, we'll conclude public testimony and open this for deliberation and voting by the board.
Okay. I would be open at this point to a
Commissioner, I'll make a motion that the application be accepted with the understanding that any change of hours require a public hearing.
One correction, Commissioner Pilkins, this is not an application, this is a request for alterations, change of the floor plan. So just in terms of the wording used for the motion, it would be an approval of the request for the alterations to the existing license.
Say that again.
This would be an approval of their request for alterations to the premises of the existing license.
Okay.
Not an application.
Request for hours and change name too.
I don't see the difference, but that we approve the application for the alterations. And what was the next part?
What are the request for alterations and changes to the hours?
And the change of hours.
As well as trade name.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. To approve the request of the applicant rather than the application.
Let me restate this whole thing for the record. This is a motion to approve the request for the the alterations of the premises and the hours, change of hours being required for a public hearing. And what did Commissioner Duffy want to add?
Trade name.
The trade name, that's the request.
And the trade name request. I think I got it that time.
Okay, do we have a second?
Operation change, trade name.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it was a motion to approve of the alteration change, the trade name, and operation hours. That was the request.
Okay, do we need a second for that?
Yeah, go ahead. You made the motion.
I second.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried. Congratulations.
That was
very
a
much.
struggle.
Very
That
much.
was a real struggle. A late hour, I guess.
Procedural circumstance for us. So thank you everybody for their patience and their attention.
Thank you.
Commissioner Duffy especially.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, if I may I excuse these clients and then I have the next case, Brass Rail, if I could have 2 minutes to bring them in and bring them out, take these out?
Sure, go ahead.
All my videos are out. I don't know who's on and who's not.
This
I
is
can just see
a
the name.
total clusterfuck.
It's hard.
Judy, you guys want to mute your mics? And
Sorry.
For all of us still present, this is Commissioner Duffy. I'm gonna step away and get a bottle of water if anyone don't mind.
That's fine. 2-minute break.
Pat, note you're providing testimony or being available for questions on the next matter as well?
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that indulgence.
You're welcome.
We're ready anytime the board is.
We've taken a couple of minute break here. We just check.
I'm gonna mute.
This is Chief Inspector Wayne Harris. Mr. Halsey, Ed Halsey, sir, is your video on? And also your audio. Okay, Miss Halsey.
Ed's here too.
I can hear you now, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, we're waiting for the executive director and we'll start. Mr. Halsey, I see you also, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you were muted. Repeat that.
Okay. Again,
We also should have Jim McGinnis on the hookup.
Mr. Aronson, you have Jim McGinnis.
There it is.
He's coming in now. Mr. McGinnis, turn your audio and video on, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you, cannot see you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can get a video on here. I'm on my phone, so.
Okay. Mr. Dales, I'm going to go ahead and read the case in then.
That's fine.
She on?
This is-
I'm sorry, Mr. Chief Inspector. The actual licensee, I don't think is joined. Is Miss Edna on? Is she with you? Ed, is Edna with you?
Here.
I think it was a chat about it.
I think she's supposed to be on with her granddaughter, Stacy.
Can't read that. What's
A chat came through that says Edna's here and trying to log on. I'm not sure who sent it.
All right, is it Stacy?
Would be.
Do you see a Stacy?
Bears?
Stacy Fairs is calling me right now.
Okay, I just promoted her. She's
All right.
she's gonna need to turn on the video and audio.
Okay.
You have your video that would also be requested for the event.
Yes. Ms. Fairs, you have to turn your audio and video on, please. Okay, well, I think we have you now. Is there anybody else, Mr. Bittner?
There's my grandmother. There's that.
Mrs. Halsey is here now. Okay, I'm going to read the case and then. All right, this is Murphy's Brass Rail, Inc., known as Murphy's Brass Rail, Inc. Edward A. Halsey, Secretary, Edward R. Halsey, President, Edna Florence Halsey, Vice President, Stacy M. Halsey, Treasurer, and the inspector is Franklin J. Faulkner. This is a non-restricted license and requesting for alterations and a change in the operating hours at 8103 Hog Neck Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor and has dancing and Sunday special licenses. Mr. Dales? Oh, I'm sorry. Anybody wishing to testify, please raise your right hands.
Raise right hand, Grandma, in case you have to say something.
Raise your hand.
Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, I do.
Please lower your hands and please give us your name and address one at a time, please.
My name is Rahul Patel.
My name is Rahul Patel.
And your addresses, please.
It's 9939 Private Lane Way, Floor, Maryland 20723.
Okay, Mr. Halsey.
Halsey, 1626 Governor Bridge Road, Davidsonville, Maryland.
Okay, Mr. Jim McGinnis.
Chip McGinnis, 6300 Pontiac Street, College Park, Maryland, 20740.
Miss Edna Halsey and Miss Stacy Ferris.
Stacy Ferris, 7847 Water Oak Point Road, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. Grandma, you have to say your name and your address.
Edna Halsey, 9003 Fort Smallwood Road, Pasadena, Maryland.
Okay, thank you all. Mr. Dales.
Thank you, Chief Harris. Mr. Bittner, please present your case for the request through your proffer and the testimony of your witnesses. But please remember that the board has read the report of your expert and can ask all their questions to him after you present your case.
Thank you very much. May it please the board, Chairman Maloney, Commissioner Pilkins, Commissioner Duffy, and staff. Initially, by way of housekeeping, I'll move in our request for alterations, exhibits 1 through 11, into evidence at this time. Move in Dr. Pat Node. Is that close?
Very good.
Move in Dr. Pat Node as an expert in the area of alcohol beverage sales, public need to accommodate all sales of alcoholic beverages, and the effect of off-sale alcoholic beverages on the surrounding community and existing businesses under Rule 5700 at SEG. And I move in his report and move that he be admitted based on previous qualifications as an expert. Any issue with his
qualifications or admissibility of his report.
And the board will take notice of his qualifications, and as with the previous matter, the board has agreed to accept the written testimony, although it was not submitted in time for the usual rule.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would ask you, because all of the historical information that I provided to you regarding the history of taverns in this county, in this country, that a tavern is not a bar, that a Class D license is not in parentheses, that the board take notice and adopt those comments as part of the evidence and record in this case.
Mr. Bittner, we can take notice of the historical proffers you made in the last matter as part of the record by reference here in this matter.
Thank you. I would specifically note that, as I mentioned in prior cases, that there currently exists in Arundel County 92 Class D licenses. Now, after this hearing, 22 of those licenses currently hold themselves out in their name and identify themselves in marketing as what would otherwise be referred to as liquor stores. We've added Plaza Liquors and Riverside Spirits here tonight. As I indicated, and I believe the board knows, certainly with assistance of competent counsel, that this is an alterations request, and the standard of review, I suggest most respectfully, is are the alterations needed to accommodate the desires of the public? And would those alterations adversely affect the health, safety, welfare, and community? That's standard of review. Your request we have included, and Dr. Pat Anode has addressed effects of these alterations on additional on existing licenses, but we do not waive any appeal from that point. Mr. Chairman, gentlemen, this is a request for alterations. What we have before you is a long-standing fixture in the community of a mixed-use establishment, and it has been a mixed-use establishment since at least the early 1970s. It's a Class D license with music, dancing, on and off sales. It has always had a formal liquor store component, always. That current liquor store is 1,272 square feet. There's an additional area of storage not being used on the establishment currently. That's the second floor, the office. We presented that to you, 1,080 square feet. There is no storage off-site or anywhere else. The current area that's in use for on-sale consumption at the establishment is 2,852 square feet. And I know the board has examined our filings, exhibits 2 and 3, showing the current configuration, the proposed configuration. And in essence, it's a flip. The current on-sale area becomes off-sale becomes on-sale, but most importantly, the on-sale area of the establishment retains its essential characteristics as a on-sale establishment, a tavern. You'll note that there's approximately 24 seats. There's an outside bar area, there's an inside bar area. The bar area retains tap draft beer services. It retains Pinot services. The tavern retains its essential characteristics as a tavern. And in fact, there's barely 1,600 square feet request for extension. 1,600 square feet extension of retail space would place this request at the lower range of existing establishments. The total square footage for retail sales of 2858 would place this establishment, if you grant these alterations, squarely in the middle, squarely in a mid-size retail establishment. And that's what is requested, and that's what's supported by the community. And members of the board, you know that based on Dr. Pat Anode's report, as well as the petitions that have been submitted, letters in support, and the background information that has been provided to you by Mr. McGinnis and Ms. Halsey, and I move all that in, it's already been admitted. But what you'll see here, gentlemen, is an establishment that's existed, as I say, for over 50 years in the community, and the community has changed. One of the most salient things that has changed in the community is the addition of significant recreational destinations at the end of Mountain Road. The board certainly will take administrative notice that at the end of Mountain Road, about 3 miles from this establishment being the last and only retail space store on your way to Compass Point Golf Center, on your way to the Harriet Weinberg Nature Conservatory, on your way to Fort Smallwood Park, which as the board knows, and I ask you to take notice of, has been significantly upgraded by Anne Arundel County in the last few years, now includes boat ramps, bathing beaches, bird watching lakes, kayak launching pads, and excellent fishing. And it's become a destination not only for Anne Arundel County residents, but residents throughout the metropolitan area. Ms. Halsey, as she pointed out in her letter, tells you that for the last several years, the on-sale consumption part of the business has been declining. That's basically based on changing desires of the community. COVID-19 did not help the situation, but she has experienced over the last several years an increased request for off-sale products that she simply did not have the space to stock. She, on her own, as she has indicated in her filings, contemplated renovating the business, but given that she's been in the business since 1985 and is in her 90s, and sadly was a victim of a robbery and kidnapping 2 or so years ago, she's wanted to retire, and she's looked to sell the business now, I believe, for about 4 years. Unfortunately, no one is interested in buying a large on-sale consumption establishment, particularly in the day of COVID-19, which I suggest most respectfully and sadly is not going to end anytime soon. And even if it does, the dining and consumption habits of the public have simply changed. They've simply changed. It's not going to go back to the way it was, I suggest, sadly. So the current owner sought out ways to maximize her business for the benefit of the community without unduly negatively affecting the community. And she received a number of suitors, none of which were interested in purchasing the business in its condition and in its current form. You'll see in the photos that we submitted to you, the brass rail needs a lot of help. And that brings us to the Patel family, who, with the help of Mr. McGinnis, and you see in his findings, he'll tell you of his efforts trying to find a market for this establishment. And the only market that was viable was a mixed use market with more off sales and less on sales. And that's what we presented to you. So Mr. Patel, and that's why we have him here, and hopefully if these alterations are approved, he'll be your next case with his wife. It's actually his wife who's the applicant, along with the family, for the transfer of his license. So the alteration request under 10,000 square feet, it's hand in glove with a request to reduce hours, Monday to Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Most respectfully, I'd suggest that the change in hours will enhance the health, safety, welfare of the community. It'll reduce any the likelihood of intoxicants, traffic, crime, and litter. Fortunately, this establishment has been run pretty well and doesn't have much of a track record with you. And it's Mr. Patel's intent to keep that that way. And he believes he and his family, Mrs. Patel, will be able to do that. We've presented as part of this filing what the Patel family intends to do in addressing potential sales to underage persons. They're going to have card scanners. They have a written policy. They're going to have extensive video surveillance on the establishment. Jumping ahead, if I may, I would tell you that Mrs. Patel, we don't expect would be actively involved in running the establishment every day. Her background is in accounting and product control. So we anticipate that she would be the brains, if you would, the manager, if you would. Her husband is an entrepreneur. He's primarily in the construction trades. No interest by them in any other alcoholic beverage establishments. Dr. Pantode in his report has further corroborated that these alterations are needed, will not adversely affect the community. And I would at this point turn Dr. Pantode over to the board for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Mr. Chairman, do you have questions for the applicant's expert?
I've got a couple questions. One, just a comment. When you started off, Mr. Bittner, you talked about a lot of things that are going on, but one thing you didn't talk about was new on this one, unless I missed it. But Doctor,
I'd be happy to readdress that. And I apologize if I didn't go into it.
The potential moving forward in your demographic information.
Yes.
Per household has a potential of about $80, as opposed to what you had before was almost 300. So that's
well, I'm not sure what you're reading, Commissioner. I've got with a 10-minute drive, I've got sales.
Let me tell you what I'm talking about. It's on page 5, and it equates to the potential of 523 versus 440.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm there.
Yeah.
I thought you said $80. I'm sorry.
Well, the difference is about $80.
Oh. Okay. Excuse me.
So there's a potential of $80. So let me just continue. In addition to that, you're looking at 11 facilities or 11 competitive factors, as you call them, in a 10-minute drive.
Correct.
So I'm concerned about, whether or not specifically we need another store the size of what you're proposing.
Oh, okay. Well, let me help with that a little bit. If you go down the next
right
paragraph, the actual reported retail sales for alcoholic beverages of stores located within 10 minutes is $25,600,324. Plus, if you add in the D sales, you add in an additional $4,410,000. And I spread these over 12 outlets. And basically what is happening here is that the original number that you looked at is that if looking at the actual residents living within the market area, this is what we're talking about in terms of their purchase behavior and their potential. But this area is a little bit different in that it's a bit of an attraction, and that you're bringing people in. You've got the great improvement of the Sports Mall and Park. You've got the golf course. You've got marinas, and this becomes a destination for people outside of the area. And in fact, on weekends, those other liquor stores and market areas get pretty darn crowded. So I would submit that the patrons living within close proximity to the store would appreciate the fact that there's an expanded capability within their own neighborhood without having to venture out. into some of the outer areas, traveling 10, 15 minutes to get to some of the other stores. But the basic difference between the first case that we were talking about in this one is that we do have a very large influx of people coming in and spending money for the purchase of alcoholic beverage takeout sales. So for that reason, I think there's tremendous demand overall. It's not going to impact anybody within the market area. They're more than half of their sales on average are coming from people outside the market area.
Okay, thank you. One other point, in your presentation or report, it says 2,800 square feet retail, but yet the drawing has 34.
I think the actual retail space is 28. I think the storage and everything else adds the difference.
He's adding it. Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just respond, and so the record is clear. Exhibit 4 consists of 8 pages of petitions in support of this alteration request. The signed orders to the petition numbering 55 all indicate that they believe it's needed, that they would patronize it if the alterations were granted. Those signatures were obtained between November 11th and January the 18th. I would also direct your attention to the statement of the licensee, Ms. Palsy, who addresses the large number of patrons that come into the store, ask for products that she doesn't stock because of space and other concerns, and who leave. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I don't have any other questions.
The commissioners have questions. Commissioner Duffy?
This is Commissioner Duffy. I have no question.
Mr. Pilkins?
2858 is the amount of floor space for the retail area, or is that the total including storage?
It's retail area from my analysis. Mr. Bittner may have additional information, but.
Mr. Bittner, could you confirm that answer? Since you put together the plans?
Okay. So the retail floor space on the first floor that will be open to the public, this is exhibit 3, page 1, is 2,858 square feet. That's the same size as what is now dedicated to on sale. The additional floor space reflects the second floor storage area. So there's 2,858 retail downstairs. Does that answer the question?
Yes, that does. That answers
Thank you.
the question.
Thank you.
Are all your questions, Commissioner Pilkins?
No, that's the only question that I had for this one.
Okay, if there are no other questions from the commissioners, there is no public comment on this item, and so I think we will close the public testimony on this hearing. Mr. Chair, it's now appropriate for deliberation and motions from the board.
I would be willing to entertain a motion.
Both commissioners are on mute if you guys are trying to speak.
They are. I don't have either one here.
Commissioner Duffy is still.
This is Commissioner Duffy. Based upon the testimony and of the council, that this establishment will not overall affect the health, the welfare, or the traffic, or other licensees in this area. I recommend that we approve this request for alteration and change of operation hour.
Very good. Is there a second to that?
Second,
Second it is.
Commissioner Pilkins.
All
Trade
those
name.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried.
Mr. Chairman, there was also a request to change the trade name to Brass Rail Liquid.
I thought the trade name was for the other item. Excuse me, I thought the trade name was,
We can solve this with an additional
last item.
motion. Commissioners, if you want to approve the request for the trade name, it's an additional motion to approve that and second vote that, please.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the trade name and.
I'll second it. I'll second it, yeah.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Carried.
Okay. All right, this ends
Thank
this ends Murphy's Brass Rail request for alterations and change in operating hours, and I guess the trade name. Are we ready to proceed with the Brass Rail Liquor and Pub transfer?
We are if you are.
Okay, any witnesses that aren't necessary can be excused. Am I correct, Mr. Maloney?
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll call Brass Rail Liquor and Pub, also known as the Brass Rail Retail LLC. PP Patel, the member, and Inspector Frank J. Faulkner will be the inspector. This is a non-restricted license at the time. It's a transfer currently from Edward A. Halsey, Edward R. Halsey, Edna Florence Halsey, and Stacy M. Halsey on behalf of Murphy's Brass Rail, Inc., trading as same, 8103 Hog Neck Road, Pasadena, 21122. This is a Class D license for beer, wine, and liquor with dancing and Sunday special licenses. Anyone wishing to testify may have already been sworn in. Do they need to be re-sworn, Mr. Dales?
No, the oath is administered will carry over and cover this part of the hearing.
You're okay with them carrying over then?
Yep.
Okay, and then I think we're ready to proceed whenever you are.
Witnesses should be advised if they're still on road.
Yes. For those
Here's a problem to start off with. I don't have a package for this. All I have is what we went through. I have Murphy's PDF. That's it. Is there another name for this?
Would it be possible
package?
To tell that to Commissioner Pilkins?
I need a package. I haven't reviewed it. All I have on here is Plaza Liquors. I have hook reel, paint nail, after deck, previous violations, and the agenda.
And you're on.
send it to you right now if you'd like.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
I'm sorry to tie this meeting up, but I need to review it.
Okay.
Pilkins, if we've got everyone sworn in, are you okay with us proceeding with proffer and testimony?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll try and catch up. I just need to have seen the document before I can vote on it. That's all.
Serious.
All right, I can recuse myself, one or the other.
No, I don't think that'll be necessary unless Mr. Bittner objects. Mr. Bittner, would you object, and would you, if not, proceed with your proffer and testimony?
No objection, and I'm happy to proceed by way of proffer.
Okay.
All right.
Just one thing before you do, Mr. Bittner, we just want to make sure that anyone testifying does understand that they're still under oath from the previous case.
Mr. and Mrs. Patel, you understand that you're going to move?
Yes.
Any testimonies given under the penalties of perjury?
Yes.
They indicate yes in the affirmative, nodding in the affirmative.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bittner. Mr. Dales?
All right, Mr. Bittner, proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. And this is, in effect, separate here, but it's a continuation of what you just heard with the brass rail. As I mentioned, these are the purchasers. We expect that they will consummate a contract of sale involving well over $1 million in a transaction and investment alterations and renovations. And the applicant here for you, Parivin Patel, Mrs. Patel, she's 40 years old, very accomplished woman. She works as an account manager. She has a degree in computer management, and she's able to do this while maintaining her household and taking care of her 2 children, 10 and 13. In fact, the family's 13-year-old daughter is here with us as a spectator, because I'll tell you, gentlemen, that what the family hopes to do here is make this a family business, a investment. These are Mr. Patel is an entrepreneur. He owns a construction company. No one has an interest in any other alcoholic beverage license anywhere in Maryland or anywhere else. Other real estate investments. Mr. Patel, on behalf of the family, saw the potential for this underutilized establishment, as you've heard, given the demographic changes in the community, given the destination location that it is with the recreation areas, amenities in close distance. So they have entered into a contract of sale. Mrs. Patel has made the application. You can see by that application that she's a fit and proper person to hold the license. She's reviewed with me the rules and regulations of the board. She understands those rules and regulations. She's been given a copy of those rules and regulations. She'll tell you when her filings bear this out that no one else has any interest in this business. The business is established solely in her name. It's an LLC. She's the sole member, sole owner, operator, cook, bottle washer, chief architect, if you would. As indicated, we don't expect that she's going to be 24/7 on the site. We do expect someone from the family is going to be there pretty much 24/7. Certainly, if the transfer is approved, we'll submit the appropriate paperwork for a manager for your consideration. She's a resident of Maryland. She's never been convicted of any disqualifying offenses, and I'd submit that she's qualified to hold the license. I'd submit that our filings are complete with the certificate of good standing for the LLC and the other submissions, and I'd ask that you approve her request. Ms. Patel, you've heard what I've had to say. Is everything true and correct?
Yes.
And the application that you filed with the board order about November the 18th of last year, that information was all true and correct?
Yes.
And nothing has changed since November 18th?
Yes.
Nothing has changed?
No.
Now, finally, if I may, we submitted in the alteration request the Patel's plan to address alcohol, any underage sales, any overconsumption in the establishment as it would be reconstituted with the alterations. And you'll see that Mrs. Patel is going to be purchasing a scanner, an ID scanner. They have instituted a written policy carding persons and using the scanner. They also tell you that they intend to have state-of-the-art video surveillance and security in the establishment, both for their own protection as well as the protection of the consuming public. So I would ask the approval of this request for transfer. And witnesses to the board if you have any questions.
Chairman, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, this is the chairman. I have no questions.
Other commissioners?
John Pilkins is going to tie us up a little bit. I'm just now getting the package on the buyer, and it'll only take me a minute.
Commissioner Duffy, while Commissioner Pilkins reviews the questions.
Okay, it has been sent to Commissioner Pilkins.
Commissioner Duffy, I didn't know if I cut you off there. Were you asking a question?
No, I was stating that I have no questions to ask.
All right. Let's give Commissioner Pilkins a minute or two to review quickly and see if he has any questions.
there. The problem we have is I don't know when I don't get something. Maybe there should be some sort of document ledger added to our packages, so when something's missing, we know it. Okay, I'm satisfied. I've read it, so
Oops.
I can go right now.
No other questions?
Sounds like no questions, so we can
No
go to
question.
the public testimony. on this
Okay, I
application.
move we the transfer be approved as,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Otis? Got an aye?
Aye.
Okay, 3 ayes.
Yes.
Carried motion. Thank you.
There we go. It's like pulling teeth.
Thank you, the applicant. Mr. Bittner, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dales. You all be safe. Pleasure seeing you all again, even from afar.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night to you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I see nothing else on the agenda. Any comments from the gallery? If not,
Well, I thought that Commissioner Pilkins made a good point about our document review. I think done a great job getting to everything, but if we put together a little ledger just to make sure that we all, click through everything, just because it's a bigger chance now in the virtual setting for us to miss some of that. I think we could adapt there.
okay, good point.
And that's another reason why we have to be careful about the lead times we need on these documents, because if we start getting things in at the 11th hour, we don't know if we missed them or not, and we don't have a chance to really review them properly.
Right, and in case anybody's still listening, I hope that that it was clear that the allowance that we made tonight is not going to be afforded necessarily to future applicants who submit late written testimony.
Yeah. Anyway, Eddie, thanks, man. You pulled us out.
For some reason, the mic seems to hide.
My mic did?
Yeah, we can see your mouth moving.
I'm sorry. I thought everybody could hear me. So.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you also.
Okay, good. What did you say, Phil? That you couldn't hear me?
Couldn't hear you for a second, but I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll look towards you next time I speak. Maybe it'll be, you can hear me. No. Thank you, Ed, very much.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Again.
I'll make the motion to adjourn. Second, anybody?
Second.
Okay, it's carried. Meeting's over.
Adios. Thank you.
Night all.
Good night.
Be safe.
Safe.
Take care.
Take care.